we are, like I said, we are in, we're in the books of history. And what we have been since Joshua, Judges, Ruth, and now we're going into 1 Samuel, and what we have majorly been talking about. We remember in Joshua, when Joshua died, he did not have anybody, he did not train anybody to take his place, and that was apparently because that's what the Lord wanted. So then what happened is various judges came in, and I like to call them champions. The champions came in, and they ruled, and we went over that in Judges and went through all the various ones. And what seems to be the theme of all of this is how that they were just up and down, up and down. They would be close to the Lord, and they would talk to the Lord and worship Him, and then the wind would change, supposedly, and here they go, and they're they're reaching out to the god of Baal and all these other things, and going into the vineyards and the orchards and all of that, worshiping the other gods, and then stuff would get really bad, and then they would again have revival. And so, like I said, they were up and down, and they could not seem to get themselves straight. And you know, when we've been looking at this, I tell you folks, I see us. Not only the United States, but the whole world. When Diane and I and several others went over to the missions meal, what was in February, and I'm repeating myself because I know I've mentioned this before, but primarily the missionaries that we had at that are those that are in like Nepal, that are in Europe, are in the former behind the Iron Curtain and all that. And what they're saying, they're calling them post-Christian. And that is grievous to me. But they have completely turned their back on the Lord and worshiping God and finding out who Jesus is, teaching that. And they are so wayward right now. And so there's them, and then there's with us. And you know, one of the interesting things is, I don't know how many of y'all watch the news. We don't really watch the news. We watch YouTube and what's being said on YouTube, because they're more truthful than what the mainline news is. And I forgot, but now in 24, when the former administration was here, the day of Easter, and he is President Biden, former President Biden, is a professing Catholic, okay? But what does he do for Easter? Instead of it being announcing Easter, he announced it, was it humanity? Totally different. Had nothing to do, right?
No, it was diversity and equity.
Yes, thank you. See, I knew that. I was trying to get y'all involved. But the trans, he acknowledges that on Easter. And it just shows just how far we have come from the Lord and from our founding fathers. And so again, it's grievous. And here we have, you know, what Trump did. And I mean, they had church. And he acknowledged and even said about Jesus Christ and on and on and on like that. And acknowledged and recognized Easter. So that's encouraging. So again, we're kind of doing this thing where we've almost gone beyond the point of no return. Now, I know this is my opinion, but gone beyond the point of no return. And here we have a judge. We have a champion that God has put in position. I know, again, I'm not politically correct, but hey, y'all can fire me if you want to. But who is pulling us back to God, to our foundings, to our what this country has been based on. And so again, I just see the parallels with Israel. And I want you to understand something. I don't know if you realize this, but whatever happens to Israel happens to America, and vice versa. Whenever there is some kind of something happens, then we will have a tornado, we'll have a hurricane, something will happen to us. And so therefore, we are like the Israelites. I'm not saying we are the Israelites. I do not believe in replacement theology. But again, we're just seeing this. And, the cool thing is with me teaching this, I'm going in and really studying and looking at it. And so it's just really impacted me in my realization. So, like I said, with Ruth, now Boaz was considered one of the judges, one of the champions, and we know he was in the story of Ruth. I'm not going to go through it all because we did that last week. But here we have Ruth, who is a Moabite, and she has a mother-in-law that is Jewish. And that mother-in-law even gives her the opportunity, if she wants to go home to her people. And she says, no, let me cling to you. Let me have, your God will be my God, your people will be my people. And folks, that is symbolism of the Gentile and the Jew coming together. And here comes Ruth. She goes to Israel, back to Bethlehem. She meets Boaz, happenstance, but nothing's a coincidence with God. But she goes to find a field, and the field she finds is Boaz's, and she doesn't even know he's her kinsman. And she goes in there, and she winds up marrying him. And that is, Jesus is our kinsman redeemer. And that is in the book of Ruth. That is the symbol, the icon is kinsman redeemer. So right after Ruth now, that is the end of it. And it is believed that Samuel wrote the book of Ruth. We are going into 1st and 2nd Samuel. So we're going to talk about in 1 Samuel, that's where we're going to be. And I'm finding some of these, I'm going back to not trying to hit and run. One of them, I just feel like we're missing so much that is significant. So when you look at your papers in here, in your folder, that I handed out, well, Diane handed out, John handed out. Okay, so the very first part, that very first Samuel is just a little summary of what the book of Samuel is about. And so it shows here, it says 3 chosen men, Samuel, Saul, and David. And so that's what we're going to talk. Tonight we're going to talk about Samuel. We're going to talk about Samuel chapters 1 through 7. And this says time span is 100 years, but another said the span was 140 years. So anyway, it was a long time. It wasn't just a couple of years. And when you look on the other side, the author and setting is Samuel. But the thought is that, well, there's 1 Samuel and there's 2 Samuel. So not necessarily Samuel wrote all of this. He probably had some help, but with it. Samuel writes a prophetically oriented history of Israel's early monarchy because their sinful nature found it easier to follow an earthly king. The Israelites were reluctantly granted a monarch of their popular choice. But man's wisdom never exceeds God's wisdom. Let's read that again. But man's wisdom never exceeds God's wisdom. And this promising reign ended in a bitterness and failure. When we're beholding Jesus, the person of Jesus is revealed both in Samuel the prophet. So in Samuel, he is the prophet, he is the priest, and he is a judge. Eli and Samuel was the very last judge. Okay, so it's funny, I didn't realize that, but he is. He's the very last judge. the very last champion. So, okay, so we got that. Let me get my notes. When we look at Samuel, because it says here that Samuel's life was he was born in 1150 BC. And again, remember, since we're before Christ, we're counting backwards. Instead of 1098, we're going 1098 instead of 8-9-10. Okay, so it's 1150, and he ended 1010. So again, so see, what is that? 140 years. All right, so the name Samuel, and the name Samuel means ask of God or heard by God. And he is identified, the icon is identification as a prophet. And he came from a priestly line of Levites. His family, his father was in the Levites and really was from Bethlehem. It begins with revealing the apostate spiritual condition Israel had fallen into and the leadership crisis the nation was experiencing in the priesthood. So here they're just going down, 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 and so we start this story, and it's a sweet story. I know we're all familiar with it, but we're going to start with. We are introduced to Samuel's parents. And so Samuel's father was called Elkanah. Is that how y'all heard it? Elkanah? Is that good? And it means required by God. And then Elkanah had 2 wives. His first wife was Hannah. And he loved her. He loved the ground she walked on. He thought she was wonderful. But Hannah had an issue. She was barren. She could not have children. And I can only tell you from a woman's point of view, when you can't have a child, it is heartbreaking. It is so disturbing, and it can even sometimes ruin a marriage if the wife gets so obsessed with wanting to have a child. It can cause problems. And so it's not looked down as much as it used to be, but especially in the biblical times, if you were barren, you were almost treated like you had leprosy. I mean, you were kind of downcast, and you were looked at like, okay, what does she do? Why did God curse her? Why has God closed her womb? What did her parents do? On and on and on. And so here she is, Hannah, his first wife, and she's barren. So he did, and what a lot of men would do back then, he married another lady. So he has 2 wives. And the second wife, where is it? Peninnah, which means pearl. So Peninnah is she's second. And I feel like she knew she was second. I'm not saying he was ugly to her or anything like that, but she could see the love between Hannah and Elkanah. And so, but anyway, she is able to have children. And so she has lots of children. And so I feel like every opportunity this woman had, she's being ugly to Hannah. She's throwing it in her face. She's upsetting her. And so what we have is we have them, and they're, I don't know if you remember or not, but there were several high holy days that every Jewish man was expected over the age of 20 to go to the temple. Now, here, the temple, folks, is not in Jerusalem. It's in Shiloh, which is about 18 miles away from Jerusalem. But that's where they built a building, and that's where they housed the Ark of the Covenant. So they would go to Shiloh for the various festivals. And so he would go, and he would have a caravan with his wife, his 2 wives, and his children. And they would go, and he would even give, like with the sacrifice, he would give a little more food to Hannah, even though she had no children, than he would to Penina and the other kids. Now again, I don't think he was ugly to her. I feel like he was a good man, but he made a difference. And I'm sure Penina would see that, and so again, she is giving Hannah a hard time. And you know how it is when you have, when you would come to these these feasts. I feel like it was like a family reunion, okay? So, you know, people that you've not seen in a year, and you come in, and so when they come in, and oh, there's a new baby, you know, all of this different stuff. Well, Hannah shows up every time, and she doesn't have a baby. And so I can imagine she dreaded these. So here she is, and she is grieving so about this that she is standing, and after the big meal, she's standing there, and her eyes are closed, and she's crying, and she is just mumbling, but she's praying to God, begging him to please give her a child. And if he will give her a child, she says, she makes a vow that I will give him back to you. And I will make sure that he takes the Nazirite vow. Now, do you remember what the Nazirite vow? What was the 3 things with the Nazirite vow? Do y'all remember?
Don't marry someone outside your one.
You can't have anything dead. Can't have anything dead. You can't.
Right, don't touch anything dead. And the 3rd is alcohol, no wine, not even eating raisins because they're a little bit fermented. So, you know, no, you can't do any of that. So this Nazirite vow, she promised that. And she said to him, she said to the Lord, if you will give me, I will give him back to you. Well, over in the side over here, High Priest Eli is watching her. And he sees her, she's crying, and she's probably, I don't know, and she's just, she's a mess with her crying, interceding. Eli comes to the quick conclusion that she's drunk. Now, what does that say right off? That's our introductory to Eli. Is he thinks this woman in the house of God is drunk. So he reprimands her. He said, get yourself together, woman. That's Elizabeth's version. He said, stop drinking so much and get yourself together. And she's like, oh, I wasn't drinking. And so she tells what her thing, what she's grieving and crying about. And Eli says to her, go, it will be done. Go and you will have a baby. And so immediately, thank goodness, she's not negative Nancy. She immediately receives that word and wipes her face, goes back into the party and eats. So apparently she hadn't even eaten. She was too distressed to even eat. And so she goes back in and to the party and eats. Well, she goes home, and when she comes back the next year, she's got a baby. She has had a little boy. But the thing is though, she doesn't come back. He does, probably with the other wife, but now she's got a baby at home. And so she does not come back to Shiloh until she has weaned that child. Now, I've looked up on the internet what the age is of weaning, and it says anywhere from 2 to 3 to 5 years old. So y'all, we've seen 4-year-olds, they're still babies. So I just want to I'm not saying thus saith the Lord, I'm not saying I've gotten a revelation, but I just want to think he had to be 5. Okay, because he's going back to live with Eli, who is very overweight and has 2 sons. So, who's going to take care of this little kid? So just want to think, about 5 years old and so she comes back and she says, "Do you remember me?" To Eli, she said, "I have a child now." And she leaves Samuel. Do you know how hard that would? Oh my goodness. She doesn't know she's going to have any more children, but she made a promise and a vow to the Lord. And so she leaves that little guy with Eli, and for him to minister to the Lord. And every time you read, almost every chapter for the next couple of chapters, it says, "And Eli ministered before the Lord." And so, now let me see, I don't want to get ahead of myself. When she comes, I was about to miss something good. So the first chapter, when you get to the second chapter, Hannah, it says here, and this is in the King James, it says, "And Hannah prayed and said, My heart rejoices in the Lord. Mine horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth is enlarged over mine enemies, because I rejoice in thy salvation." This is a poem or a song or a prayer that she prays to God, exalting him and thanking him. And it's 10 verses long. And when you read this, it goes right along. If you can grasp the outline of the Lord's Prayer, it's because if you're going to pray, do the Lord's Prayer, the first thing you do is you don't say, "Oh God, I need gas for my car. Oh Lord, I need to be able to, pay the electric bill," or whatever. You're supposed to come to the Lord, worshiping him, talking to him about how wonderful and great he is. Well, that's what she does. So it's basically like an outline of the Lord's Prayer.
It's the name of the whole book of Samuel, the first book.
Yes.
It's just, you can see everything that happens in First Samuel. You can see it in her song.
Yes. And when you go down to verse 10, the last line, "And he shall give strength unto his king and exalt the horn of his anointed." In English that says anointed, but in Hebrew it's Messiah. She's the first one to prophesy the Messiah, that he will be coming. Woo! So, hey, once again, I'm sorry, here's this little bit of pride in me. A woman makes an announcement, because it was a woman when the Lord appeared to the women, and they are the ones that were the first ones to preach the gospel to the disciples. He has risen. He's not dead. He is alive. He is risen. And it was Mary, when she carried baby Jesus into the temple, she brought back the glory into the temple. It was a woman. So, y'all need us, and we need y'all. So, with that, like you said, those first 10 verses of chapter 2, and it is comparable to 1,000 years ago that Mary sung and spoke. Remember when she went to visit Elizabeth and they greeted each other? And she's got Jesus in her womb, and she's like 3 months pregnant, so but she's got that baby there, and she starts speaking in Luke, the first chapter, 46 through 55 verse. It's the same thing. So like I said, 1,000 years ago. And isn't it interesting how many women in the Old Testament, in the Bible, were barren? Rachel was barren. It says, and the Lord opened her womb. He shut her womb for a while, because that was for Sister Leah, so she could have a little bit of favor with Jacob, but closed her womb. You've got Samson's mother, her womb was closed. Several of them. You've got Elizabeth, and just, it just seems like it's always, if there's going to be a significant person, a male born, the womb is shut up, and they're considered barren. So, all right, so let's see, so the second chapter, the whole second chapter is, I'm sorry, it is not the whole second chapter. So we've got this wonderful celebration and acknowledgement till verse 11. And then after verse 10, and then 11 it says, and Elkanah went to Ramah, to his house, and the child did minister unto the Lord before Eli. So, okay, that's the first time. There's like 3 or 4 times it mentions how the child is ministering before the Lord. Okay, when we get to verse 12, here's the other side of the story. Now the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. They knew not the Lord. How can they not know the Lord? And they are next in the lineage to be one of them, the high priest, probably the oldest, because and they don't know the Lord. And so they're bad news. It says, and the priest's custom. Okay, so here we go so they knew not the Lord, and their names are Hophni and Phinehas, or Phinehas and Hophni. I'm sorry, let me get it right, because no, it is. It's Hophni and Phinehas. Hophni's name means a fighter, and it's the word pugilist, and I thought about it. Made me think of little pug dogs, but anyway, and so like a boxer. So that's how he's known, as being a fighter, being a boxer. And then Phinehas is his word. His name means mouth, bronze, and also means a snake, the mouth of a snake. I bet he could tell you off. I bet he could. So that's the 2 boys that Eli had. And so they had this is the routine or whatever, is the people, when it was time to sacrifice, then they would sacrifice the animal, and they would put it, they would either roast it or they would put it in water and boil it. And what they would do is, the way they would know what the priest, and the priest would get the first helping, okay? So they'd throw it all in the pot, and the one in charge of the pot would have a 3-pronged fork. He would stick it down in there, and whatever he pulled out, whatever piece of meat it was, then that was for the priests and their family to eat. Well, these 2 dudes, they didn't like that. Because Eli's overweight. All right, Eli liked to eat. So I won't imagine if you saw these 2 guys, they probably like to eat and all. And so they come and they say, listen, we want it, because we don't want boiled meat. We want to roast it. So you give it to us first, and then you take care of whatever, and let us get the first choice of the and they would say, well, but if you let it go in and boil, then we can get the fat off of it. And I'm like, do what I said, or it's going to be tough. I'm going to get you. And so they would do that. Well, it got to the point the people dreaded that time, because they would get the best pieces, or the best piece. And so it got to where the people resented having to go and hand over their sacrifices, because it was not right. They're bullying is what they're doing. And not only that, but there have always been, it's not really talked about a lot, but there's always been women that have been around the temple and will help and do things also. And it's not mentioned, But there were women that stayed around the door, the gate of the temple, and would minister. Well, these two dudes would have their way with them. And so, again, okay, and all right, now let's think about, because we know America, let's think about the church in America. What have we had an issue with in the last year or so? Men of God that have taken advantage of women, you know, and some of them that, and also the complaint and the gripe is so many men of God have nicer, and that I want to be careful. Do you know what I'm getting ready to say? That they're dipping into the offering, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Now, and let me say this: I do not believe. I think it would be wonderful if we could, as a body of Christ, be able to pay off Pastor's home. I think it would be wonderful to be able to pay off his car. Okay, that would be great. All right, that we had enough money coming in that we could bless him that way. So I'm not saying that, but there are those that have gone into a ministry with, what about me? What's in it for me? Okay, we've got that going on. Well, this is what's happening here. And again, these two are in the line to be the next high priest. Well, the people come to Eli and tell him about it, what's going on, and he does absolutely nothing about it. And so you've got a dysfunction going on here. And there is a priest, a prophet or a minister that comes to him. And it's not clear who he is, but he says, "Thus saith the Lord, your two sons are going to die and you're going to die. And your lineage is going to be cut off because you have not dealt with your sons. And because of what they have done, and basically, again, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, and don't bother to do a sacrifice or to pray. The sovereign God has said that's it." And so that is that is what's going on here. And it says, and the interesting thing is it says here, and I think it's, you know, it's so sweet to me because, let's see, let me find my notes. And it says here, so in chapter 3, so in verse 27 of chapter 2 is the announcement. Nope, where am I at? Anyway, within this part. Okay, sir?
It's in verse 30
Of 2?
of 2, yes.
Yeah, and so that is where he says, "Wherefore," you read it, Ken.
For God of Israel said indeed, thy house and the house of thy father shall walk before me forever. But now the Lord said, be it far from me, for them that honor me I will honor, and they that despise me I will lightly esteem. Behold, the days come that I will cut off thy mouth and the arm of thy father's house, and there shall not be an old man in thy house.
In thy house. You know what he was saying is, your sons are going to die prematurely. And so again, this has been mentioned. And then you look at the 3rd chapter, and what does it say? And the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli. So once again, this is what he's doing. So we go into, in with chapter 3. This is, and again, I can remember, you know, again, being in Sunday school and the teacher teaching this to me when, I don't know, I was 7 or 8. I remember this story because it's so sweet. Because, well, part of me was like, I'd be scared to death. Here he is sleeping in a little, he's in this religious, spiritual area. And I don't know, have y'all ever walked into church at night and kind of And you know, just it's a little creepy sometimes. And so here this little guy is Eli's in his bed. I don't know where he is, but he's not right there with Samuel. And Samuel, I can see him in a little room, you know, by himself. And he hears Samuel, and he assumes automatically that it's Eli. So he goes to Eli. And Eli says, I haven't called you. It's not me. And this happens 3 times. And so then the 3rd time, Eli, finally realizes he's not heard from God himself in so long. He's forgotten what's going on. And he finally says, look, this time, say, Lord, what would you have, you know, for your servant? I'm not saying it exactly right, but anyway. So that's what little Samuel does. I don't know how old he is, but he goes back and he's laying in the bed, and here again he's hearing a voice, and he knows it's not Eli. That's kind of scary, and that was my impression when I was little. But then he says, Lord, you know, and so.
Only going back. My mother-in-law, her mother-in-law, she was a widow, and her grandson stayed with her, to her grandson, and they would go out on the weekend, get you up, come back to the house, and they would lay up in her house. And my mother-in-law told her, said, if she was a Christian, you need to go to that house, and you need to clean that house up. You need to tell them boys they need to get out of your house until they make a change. And she said, because she kind of got mad about it.
Yeah.
But she went to the home, she told me, y'all need to take your stuff, get out of my house until you make a change and you come back and stay. You're not going to stay in my house and you doing what you're doing. She put them out. And I mean, if you know somebody's doing something, you got people staying in your house, and you know they're doing some wrong thing.
Right.
It's gonna fall on you too.
Exactly.
You're the head of the house. You're the head of the house.
I agree. And so exactly, and it's going to fall. And so, and I have missed what I wanted to.
She came back and told you that. You know what? I wish somebody would have told me that a long time ago.
Yeah, but that's the thing. And again, getting it with Eli, you know, I'm gonna try not. I'm gonna step on the soapbox for a minute. But when you, and I know I'm, you know, most of us in here are grandparents, or, you know, so, you know, we don't have children with us. But listen, you know, one reason why you discipline your children is so other people will like them.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying beat them, but you got to make a believer out of them. Because you want people to like your child. I remember when we had children, and there was a couple of people that came, and their children came over, and when they came over, all of a sudden, they were oblivious that they had children. And their children tore up the house.
Oh, my Lord.
That happened one time.
Yeah.
And we had nothing else to do with them.
Yeah.
Because they would not make their children mind. And so that was, and that's one of the things. That's one reason why you discipline your children is so that they can get along with other people, because the world is not made, not going to accommodate them. And so they need to learn. Okay, so I'll get off of that.
They're embarrassed.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't discipline at home, when you get out of the public, they will embarrass you.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably, Lord, I know this is on the internet,
Oh.
but my form of discipline was a wooden spoon. And so, you know, you only have to do that a couple of times. And so anyway, I would have my diaper bag or their stuff, and I would let the kids see me put that spoon in the diaper bag. Never had too much trouble with them out out and about, because they knew. And so, but so anyway, Lord have mercy. Anyway, so this is the thing, okay? So, all right, so anyway, somewhere I've missed it with my notes. I must not have written it down, but one of the things that is so sweet, okay, let's go back to 2. Let's go back to 2, because I want to point this out. This is sweet. So here we're hearing about all this dysfunction in Eli's house. And it says here, verse 18, but Samuel ministered before the Lord, being a child girded with a linen ephod. So it's a linen ephod he's ministering. Moreover, his mother made him a little coat and brought it to him from year to year when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. So she did get to see him. It's not like she was like an orphan that just, was abandoned. But every year she would make him a little coat that he could wear. But when he ministered around in the church, in there, he had the little linen, little white, little ephod on, or undergarment-like, shirt-like, that he ministered to. And it says that Eli would bless her and her husband. That's verse 20. And because of that, and because of her sacrifice in that firstborn, by handing him to God, the Lord blessed her with more children. She had 3 sons and 2 more daughters. But see, she didn't know that coming in. But she, and that's what we do. Greg's father was Greek Orthodox and his mother was Episcopal, and so you baptize. What is it? You have a baptismal service, and and put the water and baptize them. And Papa George, Greg's dad, was very concerned when we had Cooper, and that was his question: are you going to have him baptized? And I said, well, yes. I said, well, what we do in our church, what we do is we dedicate the baby to the Lord. And then I said, so what we will do is we will come before the church and the pastor, and we will give him back to the Lord. I said, and then when he gets older, then he will make the decision to be baptized. And that seemed to satisfy Papa George with that. And so anyway, so that's what we do. We are symbolically doing what Hannah did. We're not leaving the child at the church, but we're giving him back, or giving her back to the Lord. All right, because I liked that. I thought that was, and the point of the conclusion of that is, again, she had 3 more sons and 2 more daughters, and she didn't lose. And let me just go ahead and say this, but listen, when you read further into this, when Samuel, he moved back home, y'all. He moved back. They were from Ramah, or Ramah, whatever. And he moved. That was his headquarters then. It was Ramah. So anyway, like I said, all right. So now let's jump forward. I went backwards. Now we're going forward. So we get to chapter 4. And here, there's going to be a war. Them Philistines, my goodness, the Philistines are all the time up to something. Seem like we hear more about them than we do anybody else. And so they go to attack, and here we go again. The soldiers, and they come to Israel, and they've got their banner that the Lord Almighty, blah 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 blah. And folks, they don't know anything about the Lord. They've not really served him. They've got their gods. They've got their things they're doing, they want to do. They'll go at the feast. It kind of reminds us of these Christians that come to church on Christmas and Easter. But the rest of the time, okay, so they're going to fight the Philistines. Now, they know the history, so they're assuming that God's going to be with them. And they get whooped. Big time. So they start to panic and worry. And they decide what they're going to do is they go to Shiloh, take the Ark of the Covenant out and carry it on the battlefield. Idiots.
They use it some lucky charm.
Exactly. Exactly. And when this first happens, and so they go and get it, and they come back, and when all the soldiers, everybody see them, they're like, yes, Lord, the Lord is with us, hallelujah. Oh yes, and we're dancing and we're playing the tambourines and blowing the horns, hallelujah, the Lord. And the Philistines hear him say, oh, ooh, they're charged up. And I love what it says in verse 7 of 4. It says, and the Philistines were afraid, for they said, God is come into the camp. Folks, we want God to come into our camp. We want the enemy to know that God has come into our camp.
Yes, he is.
Hallelujah. It says then, and they said, woe unto us, for there hath not been such a thing there here before. Woe unto us, who shall deliver us from the hand of the mighty gods? Now I don't know. It says gods. I don't understand that. These mighty gods. I guess again because they have multiple gods. That's what they say. These are the gods that smote the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. But then they start talking to themselves, and they said, they told because they were ready. They're going to turn around and run, and says, be strong and quiet yourselves like men, O ye Philistines, that this is their higher ups saying this, that ye be not servants unto the Hebrews, as they have been to you. Quiet yourselves like men and fight. So again, they're giving a pep talk. It says, and the Philistines fought, and the Israelites were smitten, and they fled every man into his tent, and there was a very great slaughter. And it says that 30,000 footmen were killed. In 30,000. And the ark was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. You know, sometimes God doesn't move when we think he should. But if he says something, it's going to happen. It's a sovereign word. It's going to happen. And so that's what happened. And there ran a man from the Benjamin out of the army and came to Shiloh the same day with his clothes rent and with earth upon his head. And anyway, he goes, and when he goes and tells Eli that his sons have died and that they've taken the Ark of the Covenant, Eli falls backwards. He's such a big, I don't know how, he had to be huge. Fell, and when he fell off his chair, he broke his neck, and he died. So, bam, bam, bam. All right, so now what are we going to do? Because Eli there has been the judge, has been the champion, now he's dead. So that leaves little Samuel. So what happens is that they get this, they can't believe that this has happened, and now they take the Ark of the Covenant, their spoils, one of their spoils, and they take it. And so they take and put it in the temple of their god, Dagon. Dagon is a god of grain. And they put the Ark of the Covenant in there, and the next morning when they go in, Dagon is on his face. And they're like, oops. So they have to pick up their God and stand him back upright. Oh my goodness. Do we have to do that with our God? No. So they do that again. When they come the next morning, it's fallen over, and this is when the palms have been cut off and all of this. And so that scares them. That concerns them. And so there are 5. It says, let me get to my next. For 7 months, the Ark of the Covenant is in the Philistine area, and they have 5 major they have 5 major cities, and each one of these cities, of course, has like a governor or leader. Well, folks, they take the ark and they keep taking it from city to city. And what happens is rats show up. And the other thing that happens is one says that tumors, but according to, they got hemorrhoids. So they're in a lot of pain. One of the things it said here in my notes, it says that I read, it says, some scholars suggest that they had severe cases of hemorrhoids. Others suggested, it says hemorrhoids, which is an English term for hemorrhoids, but it says involve swollen lymph glands, indicating of a type of bubonic plague hit. And see, the rats were just transferring it in there. So they're like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So they decided, okay, we're sending this thing back. It's anywhere we take it, it's attacking us. So we're going to send it back. So they put it on a cart and put it on there, and they said, well, we've got to have some kind of a peace offering or something for this. So they make 5 golden images of hemorrhoids and 5 images of rats, and put that in, and that's their gift. And they send with 2 cows, send it off, and it winds up, it does make it back into back to the Israelites. And so when it gets there, let's see, I think it's Beth Shemesh. They're out there. The Jews are out there reaping the wheat harvest in the valley, and they see it come, and they're so excited. And they let them know that we've got the Ark of the Covenant back. But the dumb thing they did is in verse 19 of chapter 6, and he smote the men of Beth Shemesh because they had looked into the ark of the Lord. Even he smote of the people 50,000 and 70 men, and the people lamented. I bet they did lament. Now, does that sound like something? Now, we've got a movie about that. Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that? And remember, and that's what they tried to do, the Nazis. How many of y'all seen the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark? Oh my goodness, you got to see it. It's good. And anyway, and so here he is, and he's tied up with the girl, and those Nazis are trying to lift the thing, and when they do, they're saying, oh, it's so beautiful, and all of a sudden, and Indiana says, don't look, close your eyes. No matter what you hear or see, close your eyes. Am I saying it right? Basically. And so anyway, they're spared. But this is what happened again. So that shook them up. All right. So when we get to the 7th chapter, it says that, so what they do is they give, I'm looking for my, okay, I'm already going. But anyway, okay, so let me just go back. All right, going back to the 2 sons when they die. Phineas's wife is pregnant, and when she finds out that her husband has died, she goes into labor. And she has a really hard labor, and she's dying. But they say to her, and she had delivered the boy, and they say to her, "Oh, be of good cheer. Your child is alive. You've given birth." But she's dying, and on her dying bed, she names this child Ichabod. Remember Ichabod Crane from the? Okay, but Ichabod. Do you know what that means?
Lord has departed.
Yes, the glory of the Lord has departed. A lot of times on Sunday mornings when we're praying, I'm praying, God, let the glory fall. Folks, we need the glory. We need the glory in this place. Oh, we do. And so I don't want that to be written on our church,
Yeah,
Ichabod. It's been written on a lot of churches.
Yeah.
A lot of churches, they've had to close the doors, or it's a form of godliness. I don't want us to be a form of godliness denying the power thereof. We're Pentecostal, okay? God needs to be moving, and He is, folks. He is moving in our services. I want to read. So they wind up. They find someone to take the Ark of the Covenant, and it stays. I believe the guy's name's Eleazar. Am I right? I'm looking because it's gone over. All right. Then Samuel. Okay, so then Samuel says to them. I got verse 12 of 7 says, Then Samuel took a stone and set it between Mizpah and Shin, and called the name of Ebenezer, saying, Hitherto hath the Lord helped us. And so Samuel says, he becomes the judge, he becomes in charge. And he says, we got to tear down everything, get rid of all of your gods, and we've got to serve the Lord Most High. So that has taken us through chapters 1 through 7, and that's about Samuel, and it's about how the Ark of the Covenant was taken. Next week we're going to talk about Brother Saul. So we'll talk about him, and then the next Wednesday after that, we will be talking about David. And Jack, will you lead us in closed prayer?
Lord, we thank you.